So let's begin. First off, I'd like to wish everyone a happy, auspicious Lunar New Year. We hope everybody had a good long weekend celebration last week. And of course, when it comes to the Lunar New Year, everybody always feels optimistic about what the new year has in store for us, hence the theme for our webinar today. Thus, we have assembled a panel of distinguished guests to give their insights on what 2021 has in store for us as the Singapore economy is on the road to recovery from COVID-19. I think this discussion is also very timely as well and will be particularly interesting as the budget for 2021 was just announced a few days ago. So we have a lot to look forward to this year. So first and foremost, allow me to introduce our panel. Firstly, we have Sean Ng, Managing Director of Cornerstone Global Partners, who will be sharing about the employment trends we can expect for 2021. Dr. Kevin Yong, Chief Learning Officer of SIM University, who will be focusing on the developments in human capital. And Dr. Goh Kim Yong, Vice Dean of the National University of Singapore School of Computing, who will provide insight into the IT and business digitalization trends for the year. So without further ado, I would like to invite our COO, Chan Chu Hao, to ask our panel today the right questions in order to tap into their brilliant minds. Chu Hao, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hope thanks for joining us today for our little panelist discussion. So I think everyone is at this stage whereby you're at this, in between scenarios. We just had a rough year of 2020 that's over. Chinese New Year is over. And now that vaccines are all out, I think that it's very timely for us to maybe have a discussion and on what's going to happen next, right? Especially in our space, we're dealing with a lot of HR. We're right in the and tech kind of junction where we want to share with everybody what are the thoughts, maybe some of the industry players, some of the academics, what they think about how this market will evolve and what the trends will be like. Hopefully at the end of the session, everyone gets some pointers that you can take away. That'll be very helpful for your planning and maybe have a better view of the outlook for the next coming few months, at least for the next remaining part of the year. So with this, I think Ivan, we can share something about so in our sense the whole market is evolving. I think Ivan is supposed to bring up. Yep. So recently we came across some research that shows that some of the world's economies are able to come out of this actually much stronger. A few key trends tend to happen, right? A lot of adoption in tech nowadays, pushing everybody out, stay at home. Everyone's through Zoom. They're getting used to it. Whole 1 year of practice. Everyone's more or less in tune on how to do this. And a lot of discoveries in organizations, they're starting to find that, hey, actually, this is not a bad way to work, right? This is not a bad way to evolve the economy, especially when it comes to technology or being innovative or being transforming your industries. There's a lot of rethinking, a lot of re-strategizing. And the way we see this is that, economies, if you look at how Singapore is placed with the reason why everyone is feeling so stressed is that we are ranked actually very highly in terms of one of the most innovative economies in the world. Adoption, our SingPass and all that. Even like, for example, in Just Login ourselves, recently we were doing a research with GovTech on how to use face recognition for your SingPass, right? These are all exciting technology development, and it's kind of going into the industry. It's coming to tech, it's going into businesses that are adopting all these e-payments. So I think this a very good outlook is that the only way we're going to survive as an economy, as a country, is just to be ahead of the rest. And we're doing a good job on that front. So I think given this opportunity, I'd like to kind of maybe go around table, start kind of ping Sean here. Sean is the MD of CGP Group. And he has Cornerstone very much in recruitment in HR business. So Sean, are you there?
Yeah. Chu Hao, yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah. So Sean, in your whole business that you have been involved with in terms of HR economies and stuff, where do you see this this trend going after COVID? How is the hiring? What are the challenges in hiring going forward?
Now, if I break it down to different countries, yeah, because I'm running a recruitment firm that is across Asia Pacific. So well, I'll talk about Singapore first because I'm here in Singapore. Now, in Singapore, actually, over the last 9 months, we see that there's a lot of unemployment during the first part of the first quarter of COVID, which is last year in April. So government have been prepping us that there will be a lot of people going into unemployment. So we have seen a lot of people, but actually back to quarter 4 last year, because of all the JSS and JGI and a lot of incentive given by the government, quarter 4 for us as a recruitment company in Singapore, we find it harder to find more Singaporeans or PRs to do some of the jobs that we are tasked to find for our clients. So in fact, I think that overall is a good thing for Singapore. So in fact, today when we are looking for most of our clients, because of JGI and the incentive that they have, a lot of our clients are specifying that they only can look for PRs and Singaporeans. So first, I think the Singapore side is not as bad as places like in China, Japan, and Hong Kong. That's where I have operations in as well. In China, for example, our company, we have about 10 officers in China. So since last year in April, in fact, in China, it is hard to find blue-collar workers all across China. And a lot of the salary have actually gone up a lot during the COVID, which is a weird thing for us to find out, to feel, because we thought the COVID will slow down a lot of investment going into China, but somehow the whole local economy and the local SME in China are coming up very fast as well. So overall, where I'm looking at in terms of recruitment, I find that it's fairly healthy. It's not that bad. But what I like to maybe share with you guys is also, if you want, you can unshare first, then I can share some slides on some of the maybe more interesting trends of the employment market today. So I prepared a few slides just to kind of showcase what are the general trends in Singapore on talent insights. So first, I think everyone recognizes the fact that Singapore is now ranked #1 in the IMD World Talent Ranking 2020. So we have a very big pool of very talented people in Singapore. And then with the continuous support from the Singapore government, in fact, because I run so many, I have offices in so many countries. One of the things that I must say, one of the best investment for our company is to have a Singapore office, because I started the business really in China, not in Singapore. That's where I was based for the last 15 years. So Singapore is a subsidiary of my China business. So in fact, I pride myself to be a Singaporean because with all this skill fund, SG United skill program, mid-career pathway, traineeship programs, job support scheme, job growth incentive, Singapore, among the Asia Pacific countries, we are very fortunate to have our businesses here because government is supporting a lot of the salary that we are paying to our guys. 25% for people below 40 years old on JGI, 50% for people who are above 40 years old. Schemes like that really encourages, I think it also strengthens Singapore positioning in global market to attract a lot of investment into Singapore. So I think that's kudos for the government. Now, although we have all this incentive, a lot of the MNC are still very cautious about hiring big time. They are not retrenching, they are maintaining, I would say. But I believe after this COVID in Q3, Q4 this year, things are going to pick up very fast. We will see a lot of investment coming into Singapore because COVID is very well handled in Singapore. Number two, I think the Singapore government giving a lot of grants to these companies. So I believe we are all good in Singapore and we'll be very competitive in the world stage. Now, just some statistics for everyone. About a quarter of our workforce in Singapore is foreign workers. So they are either here on work passes, work permit, S passes, or employment passes. Now, you all know about the digital banks coming into Singapore. Licenses have been given to Grab and Singtel, and also SEA and N Financial. So this will transform. I see a big transformation in the banking and financial services. And that's why a lot of our recruitment is actually in this space in Singapore. And with EDB issuing of the tech passes in Singapore for 2021, we believe this will also allow a lot of very good talents to come into Singapore that is sought after by a lot of, because we have different ministry taking care, MOM take care of EP. This tech passes, I think is a very important thing that the Singapore government is doing, is through EDB, right? So 500 will be issued, and this will propel a lot of fast-growing companies to access this talent to scale their business in Asia, in Singapore. So I believe this will help us overall in the tech hub. I guess some of the challenges in hiring today for a lot of MNCs or SMEs in Singapore is, if you're hiring today and you're looking for S passes or EPs, you'll find it very difficult to apply, or the waiting time is long, or the criteria is harder now. S pass used to be kind of, you do not need to advertise the job in job banks, but today S passes you need to apply on job banks for 1 month before you can apply for your new guys. And also the criteria for some of the Malaysian coming into Singapore used to be maybe 3,000-4,000. Now you have to be at least 6,000-7,000 in order to apply S passes. And I believe in the last budget, S passes is going to be lower. So with all this, right, I think the government is trying to help the Singaporeans to get the first job in Singapore. But we also find it now, as a recruitment company, harder to find these talents as well. So I guess there will be a point of time when this will have to be balanced out eventually. So I believe a lot of challenges in hiring is still within the tech sector, because for the last 20-30 years, a lot of the hiring for especially IT personnel, cloud, AI, a lot of them are foreign talents, and our Singapore education system was not able to catch up. That's my personal opinion, to the demands in the market. So today, when we are taking a 180-degree turn to protect jobs in Singapore, I felt that is a bit challenging for a lot of businesses to adapt. So that's why we are doing, the government is doing a lot of changes in the education, and that's where the other two speakers might be able to share more insight later on.
Yeah, I think, Sean, that's a very good insight on you brought out the fact that we don't have S pluses and all that. I think and now all moving towards tech. I mean, Kevin, Dr. Kevin Yong from SIM. We've been you've done a lot of schools. You've been through a couple. Is that the kind of trend that you're seeing from the education sector as well? I mean, are your schools now like pushing out more? Human capital development in this area? Something you want to share about? What will it be like for 2021?
Oh, certainly. So let me just build on what Sean has shared. Certainly, I thought one of the great things about being Singaporean in this COVID situation is the way we've responded. So even at the Singapore Institute of Management, one of the things that we've joined the help, right? We've helped by we launched the SG United Skills Program, Advanced Manufacturing. Then you got to ask yourself, what does the Institute of Management have to do with advanced manufacturing? And what we've come to realize is that what industries and what companies really need skills-based training. So one of the things that we do at SIM is we focus on getting our learners, whether it's PMEDs or even undergraduates, to have industry-relevant skills. And the thing that we thought that would be useful is that instead of, at least in this particular case for the COVID situation, we've partnered with companies like Autodesk and Hewlett-Packard and Yellow Pages to try to translate industry skills into programs, so that the learners who come into our program, even though they've been recently displaced by COVID, they will be skilled with industry-relevant skills. And then we work with recruitment placement agencies like those similar to what Sean is doing to get people jobs lah. So I think it's important, at least in our educational institution, where we might do what we refer to as demand-driven skills programs lah. We actually went and understood. We look for job roles, and we actually identified, to our surprise, 77 job roles in advanced manufacturing industry at the height of COVID, when it first started, when the lockdown came down. So that there are a lot of jobs. And even when I go and speak to the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, I say, wow, there are plenty of jobs. The question is whether our workforce has those skills. And it's important to match those who have been displaced to existing jobs, much like what Sean is saying. So I think it's important. So that's one thing we're doing. We're pivoting, we're responding. And the only way we can do this is because we're very lucky. We have a lot of partners, industry partners who are willing to share their know-how, and we're able to translate their know-how into training programs.
I mean, it's great to hear that SM is doing such things. I mean, or how about the NUS side? And then Kim Yong itself in IT, is now you're seeing more students jumping into this kind of courses than previously. Are they getting better students in this space? I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, good question. I think Chao Hao, this to kind of echo also Sean's point about the local educational institutions not being able to kind of provide enough kind of supply or pipeline of IT talents. I think I completely agree with Sean. I think the perennial complaint that we kind of hear from industry partners is that I think the local institutions, I mean, not only NUS, SMU, NTU also, is not providing enough number of, let's say, bachelor graduates. All right, so that's why on MOE's part, I think they have been kind of pushing all the local schools of computer science or IT or IS information systems to kind of push out or at least accept a lot more undergraduate students. So as a kind of benchmark or relative comparison, let's say about 4 or 5 years ago, we used to take in only about 400 per cohort. So as of last August, we took in about 1,200 plus, close to 1,300. So that's a 3 to 4-fold increase actually. So we are trying our best, at least in NUS, to kind of take in as many students as possible. So at 1,000 to 1,200 students, most of them are actually computer science majors. So the rest will be information systems, business analytics, information security, and computer engineering. So we're trying our best to kind of push out these graduates and across many different kind of streams in the IT side as best as possible. And I'm sure SMU is doing the same. I'm sure some of the audience will have heard that the School of IS in SMU is kind of rebranding or changing their name to School of Computer Science and Information Systems. Yeah, and at TU side, I think also they are ramping up their intake. All right, so on the hiring difficulties by the SMEs or the local companies, I'll just like to share that at least for our school, we actually mandate compulsory internships for all students. So if any of the kind of audience are interested to engage us, at least students from NUS School of Computing, we'll be happy to help. I mean, we also have various career fairs, 2 to 3 career fairs annually to kind of help, of course, our students to get the jobs, and of course, importantly, to fill in the pipeline of the kind of supply-demand mismatch.
I mean, you got 1,200 students coming out. So in about, this just started happening in the last, what?
No, okay, good point. It started happening, we took in actually about 2 years already, about 1,200 students. 3 years ago, about 1,000 students. So we are almost at the full capacity.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So is this 1,200 students, if you compare to other faculties, we are, I mean, if you know, School of Computing used to be a very small school. Right now, at this number, we are comparable to the entire Faculty of Science and Faculty of Engineering.
That's quite a big. I mean, so in other words, you're given the same number, almost the same number of students going to university every year, right? But it's just that some faculty must be shrinking then, if that's the case.
Yeah, that's right. So in fact, our provost is kind of pushing the Faculty of Science to kind of do more data science, kind of pivot to data science kind of side of things. If not, the physics professor will start to lose jobs. So we got to cut. Even the professors will be losing jobs. Nobody will be interested in, let's say, to do I don't know, astrophysics or something. There's no demand for such skills locally, right? And mathematicians also they have to pivot to statistics, data science, in order to kind of help push out graduates. If not, we ourselves as professors, the fact is, if there's no student, the school has no revenue, we'll lose our job. It's the same story everywhere. I'm sure Kevin will agree with me as well.
Oh, we just got rid of all our professors, so no problem.
So it's not true that we have an iron rice bowl. Sometimes at some point the pressure is on us as well.
I mean, I think, let me comment. I think, to be fair to NUS, it's tough lah. It's really, really tough. And because I'll share an anecdote. One of my corporate partners I was talking to this morning, and we were chatting about it, and she was telling me that as part of this thing, they the JSS and all that, they hired 1,000 people. They hired 1,000 people more than they usually hire. And and after about 1 or 2, they have this new employees for about a year. And they realize that they may not ultimately be able to keep all this 1,000. Why? And Dr. Goh, you may enjoy this. A lot of them say, wow, cloud computing don't want. Cloud computing don't want. Architecture work cannot. This is not. I do computer science 20 years ago. I've been doing this old stuff. I cannot do cloud computing. Don't ask me to do cloud stuff. But the partner that I'm talking about, they need a cloud. The pivoting, the digital. So they need talent in cloud. Now, NUS can train someone in cloud skills, but it'll take them 4 years before they're ready for the market. Take 3-4 years, right? So the fastest part would be to say, okay, let's take the existing professionals, the PMETs, who are in their 30s, their 40s. Let's pivot. Let's build on your existing skills, learn new skills, and be able to do cloud computing. So the issue is, and I by no means have cracked the code. How do we help colleagues or fellow Singaporeans who have had many, many years of experience doing one type of computer science and to pivot their knowledge or learn a new technology, a new language, and pivot? And it's not easy. But for those who are willing to put in that little bit of investment, there are many jobs out there. The rewards, I think, are high. So I've seen some people do it. And when they do it, it pays out. And so we need to figure out how to get that going.
Yeah, exactly. I think I completely agree with you. So I guess you kind of highlighted one big issue, right? I mean, the 4-year timeline to get undergraduate's degree out is a long time. So on the other side is, of course, kind of plugging the skills gap at the professionals levels, at the postgraduate education level, at the continuing education level. So in those aspects, I think NUS is also trying to kind of ramp up like what SIM is doing. So partnering with some industry folks to kind of offer short-term kind of continuing education courses. In the computing areas also, we are seeing a fair level of demand for kind of skills or degree upgrading at the master's level. All right, so even for those folks who do not have a strong technical kind of training at the undergrad computer science level, so we are launching master's degrees, what we call for a general track, where we train, let's say if you have a mathematics degree, for example, even though it's not computer science, but as long as you have a reasonable quantitative background, we can kind of help you to pick up the skills in the computing areas. So we are seeing a lot more people interested in that area. Also, let's say for fintech area, right, like what Sean has kind of highlighted, the digital banks. MAS has also been pushing us. In fact, I think some of you may have heard that MAS provided some grant for us in NUS to launch what we call this Asian Institute of Digital Finance. So this kind of center is oriented towards In fact, there's going to be a press release soon, I suppose, on launching a new Master of Science in FinTech. So we are geared towards helping, let's say, the finance professionals to kind of pivot or kind of gain some skills in the FinTech area. So for the finance professionals, of course, they have the finance skills, but perhaps less so in the tech side. All right, so to this end, I think this finance folks probably would benefit from getting more skills in tech fin area rather than FinTech. I mean, to kind of play around with the words.
Oh. So I mean, how about Sean yourself? Are you seeing the same thing in your space? I mean, you're dealing mostly on the employer side, right? You're bringing in your employers are hiring. Are you seeing that this match between like what our universities are generating and what your clients are asking for?
Yep. Let me share a slide now on some of we have a very big tech team within Cornerstone. This tech team is helping a lot of banks, both local and foreign banks in Singapore, to look for their guys. We also support a lot of the fintech companies. So let me share with you this slide, which is, can you see this top tech trends slide?
We're seeing nothing now. Are you sharing?
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm not sharing yet. Hang on. So let me go back to share screen. Okay, can you
Yep.
see this?
Yes.
Yeah, some of the top tech trends that we are looking for in terms of the talents that we're looking for in rankings, or maybe this ranking is not important depending on which company. AI and cloud computing, definitely a big, a lot of people are asking us to do this area. So, I mean, I work with people like the Amazon across Asia Pacific. They have been, planting thousands of talents in Singapore over the last 5-6 years. So a lot of their staff are actually from Europe, US, Singaporean. They're training, but not enough. So that's why they have to bring all these talents in. Advanced data analytics, data scientists and analysts, very sought after. A lot of these positions are Indians who's holding the jobs. That's another area. Hyper automation. This is also an area of demand. The fourth is cybersecurity. The fifth is remote working. So anyway, I just share these 5 top jobs. These are the type of jobs that our company are now focusing for our clients. And talents within Singapore in this probably need a few more years. So like how MAS or the government asked NUS to support this growth in. So there's 2 ways of doing this, right? One, we recruit overseas, find the talents, or 2, we train them locally. So I guess Dr. Goh will represent the education side, and for me, I represent the recruitment side to help the Singapore propel in this area, especially in tech.
So for the benefits of everybody in this room, I mean, I guess today we invited a lot of people in medium-sized companies and tech-sized companies. So probably they are going through some transformation and they need all these experts. So how do you see the labor market moving towards? I mean, it comes to a point whereby the salaries of all these tech guys will definitely go up the roof, right? I will imagine this to be the case. If the demand is not catching up fast enough, then you will see all those. Do you see a trend whereby salaries are going up at 5%, 10% year on year for these guys, especially in recruitment? Sure.
I just place someone from one place to another place. Financial services. I cannot name the company.
Sure, of course, understand.
But this guy is asking for 40%. My client agreed. So yes,
40% more.
40% more.
Wow.
Talents, if you are needed, they will still pay because they need you. So that to the FS, these are small money for them because they cannot find the person to do this job. But I believe that I think the last 5 years or 10 years, things are moving. I dare not say 10 years ago, but I think there's a lot of changes in the education system, a lot of emphasis in NUS, NTU. There's so many education systems. coming up to support this growth in the tech space.
So it seems like, I mean, maybe more to Kevin's side, right? I mean, you're looking at a lot of these mid-career people moving into upgrading and all this. I mean, how do you, what do you think companies can do? You know, I mean, they want to retain talent, right? I mean, that's one challenge. It's like, I got these MNCs coming in to poach all these high flyers, but retain talent, do you see a lot more companies, you know, is it, what kind of journey they can go to, like, you know, enabling their, I got a manager here has been working for me like 10 years. How, you know, what do you think how do we help these guys, you know, to retain these talents? Will providing services like yours help, you know?
Okay, so I mean
Or what you're seeing other companies do, I don't know, just
oh,
nice.
okay, I mean there's the classic pretty sensible approach, right? The job security is a great way to keep talent, giving people opportunities to do more interesting work and all these good things lah. Or you might even say increasing the salaries of your existing talent might help, because the cost of hiring someone new may be even more costly. These are the pretty standard answers, but this may not be ultimately sustainable in the long run. At the end of the day, you're right. If an MNC comes in with something more sexy, more interesting, then people might actually sort out. But one thing that the two things that I like to bring up, and I think 2 or 3 things that you need to think about when it comes to keeping a talent. First and foremost, with the incoming of all this technology disruptions, I think job redesign it becomes increasingly important. Redesign the job, because I'm a strong believer that not even strong, I think most people here will agree. Technology doesn't disrupt people. Technology disrupts tasks, specific tasks within the job. Certain tasks in the job can be automated and should be automated. And in so doing, if someone's job has a lot of tasks that can be automated, then that job becomes relatively redundant. But it's not that the person is redundant. The job to be done by a human is redundant. It can be automated. So the key here is to redesign the job responsibilities. If something gets automated, that person can be reassigned to do more important work. And now this is where the retention can come in. You know, when you redesign a person's job, design it so that they can apply what they already know or what they're good at to create more value for the organization. I think one of the things that a lot of companies, not just SMEs, but MNCs, forget about this. And then, you know, especially if someone's really good at something, you have a tendency you want to keep that person in that same role. Hey, you've been doing this good last year. Hey, keep going. I'll give you more bonus next year, but keep doing the same thing because you're very good at it. I don't need to change as a supervisor. I want all my good people to do the same thing. But 5-10 years down the road, your good people say, hey, enough already. I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I'm not a robot. I want to do something more interesting. So job redesign, and that's really important. And which brings to mind some research that I published last year myself. I think the biggest driver of innovation for Singaporeans or in Singapore is motivation, is mindset. It's not the skills. It's not skills. Well, skills are important, right, for innovation. But because in Singapore we're such a highly skilled lot, skills don't give you that competitive advantage. In Singapore, what gives you the advantage is your mindset, your motivation. Why are you doing the job that you're doing? So employers need to keep their talent engaged in the job. They must be meaningful. Meaningful, not necessarily in a salary sort of way, but meaningful in the sense that this is interesting work that I'm doing. I'm making a contribution to the problem I'm solving or the industry that I'm working in. And that's where job redesign comes in a big way. And that's how I think companies should be thinking about retaining talent. And when you redesign jobs, it's not just to retain the talent, but it also is in the interest of your strategic objectives. Redesign it to support your strategic objectives, right? So it becomes win-win. Not only will you get your talent to stay because they're more motivated, but they're now more motivated to drive the success of your company. So that's why it's important. Make a link between the job redesign and your strategic objectives.
I think this the part that you bring up about automation is something I think I'd like to have Dr. Goh's input on this. It's like, you know, you got all this digitization, business. You do a lot of consulting on the side, I suppose, or you see what kind of business digitization trends should companies be looking at, in this kind of climate, that your school is pitching, that your school has a crystal ball that's looking at? Where do you see this trend going?
Yeah, thanks, Chao Hong and Kevin. So I guess one big area which is kind of no surprise is, of course, in the area of AI and machine learning. All right, so where a lot of automation is going on, a lot of kind of job, I don't know what you call that, job enhancement, job automation or job creation is going on. Right, I mean, in the sense that there's a lot of discussion about whether AI machine learning will displace jobs. But the fact is, I think if you look at some of the industry reports, about 50 to 75% of existing jobs will change. I mean, as what Kevin said, in terms of the task. All right, so the key thing is kind of having the correct mindset at the senior management level, at the individual kind of employee level. What can you do to kind of change the nature of the job you're kind of tasked in doing? All right, so say for example, in the past, there's no such thing as a social media marketing analyst kind of thing. If you're doing the retail side, all right, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, there's no such job, kind of job role. But of course, starting from probably 10 years ago, where people started to use Facebook a lot more, and you see companies, retailers going to Facebook to set up brand pages. All right, that's how this whole social media marketing started. Of course, if you fast forward to today, you look at what can AI machine learning help to do your social media marketing job better. I think this is where I think perhaps some of the companies, SMEs or MNCs, perhaps can look into how can you apply some of this AI machine learning methods, NLP methods, whatever. So in my own research, for example, we have seen, let's say, companies kind of getting data from social media brand pages, all right? Then you can do kind of text mining to quantify the kind of consumer chatter about what the consumers thinks about your products. Can you do one-to-one marketing to kind of improve your customer relationship management? I think some of you folks could also have implemented web chats or chatbots, right? So of course, some of these are really at the experimentation stage. All right, so you could use those chatbots to kind of replace your human customer service representative. But at this stage, everybody probably would be wondering, is it really that effective? All right, so there's also some research that's shown that people are usually turned off by this sort of chatbots or web apps. I just had lunch just now before this webinar. So I was kind of talking about the example of Singtel. Okay, hopefully, I don't know whether there's any Singtel audience here. So I was talking about a case of this data leakage thing in Singtel. I think some of you may have the experience where you do a web chat with Singtel. They direct you to an external kind of vendor to key in personal details of to verify your NRIC number, for example. So I was telling my friend that no, I simply refuse to give my details over this web chat interface to external company because I already foresaw the possibility that there will be a data leakage once the data goes out to a third-party vendor. So I made the guy call me. All right, so this is just one instance where I think perhaps a web chat doesn't really work very well. You still need to have some human interface somewhere. All right, so these are some instances of things. I think even though AI machine learning can do a lot of things, but there's always kind of the human element that you need to take care of, and that's where one example of how kind of human can kind of complement some of these technologies beyond this web chat or social media marketing.
Yeah, so actually, speaking of which, I mean, you got all this new tech coming up, and Kevin brought up about the fact that you got to change your job to retain about motivation. I mean, both you brought up the fact about mindset and motivation. I think that's one thing. So maybe I'd like to ping Sean's head on this. Is like now you got a lot of. I'm a small business owner, right? I'm dealing with all this talent, and one thing I can there's only so much I can pay. But you mentioned something about motivation. Maybe Sean would like to share, based on time, what are the times where, especially when you're trying to poach dealing with all these top talents, was there a case in the history where motivation and mindset made a difference in them not moving or being poached, or you find that this candidate was so hard to pull across because he was really inspired by what this company, his employer was doing, that he wants to stay on and retain with this company? Are you will share a bit more from your perspective on that front, retaining employees?
Yep. A lot of time when we talk to people, right, the job of a headhunter is really to support and help this person grow into a bigger job or better job. A lot of time people are willing to move. If you have staff who resign, the statistics says 70% of the reason why that person leave is not because he wants a bigger salary or a bigger job. 70% of the time, they are the real reason is they are unhappy about you, the boss. That's why they leave you and join another company. Now, same for me. I have about 400 staff across Asia Pac. The reason why they leave, I always tell my leaders, is because of you. So retaining people to me is the most important thing in any business, because it creates stability for the business and growth for the business. So if you know how to motivate your guys to stay with you, you will do better and better. But a lot of time, people do not know how to motivate, and that's why they lose their staff. So I guess this is your own experience. Some industry, the churn is not important for them because they can always replace, because they are all blue collars. But especially in the world of talents, this is very important for the banks, for the big MNCs, retaining the talents.
So retention of talent, I actually like to bring it back to Kevin. Because you're in SIMN, and now we're talking about tech education and all that, right? There's also this soft skills that AI robots will never be able to replace. And I don't know, you being a human capital development stage, is there development on this front that you see? I would imagine this is just as important.
Well, in some ways that's true, but I will be careful not to apply that wisdom blindly. A lot of things can get automated. Even so-called soft skills, what we think might be soft skills, can be automated. At the same time, things that have been automated, humans can still be just as good, or even better. And what do I mean by that? For instance, you could automate basic mathematics, if I may, or basic addition and this kind of things. But what you may not be, okay, let me share a better example. Okay, people talk about how automation is going to replace lawyers and medical doctors, because once you have enough data, they're going to make predictions much faster than a doctor and all this. Okay. But just imagine this scenario. Imagine this scenario where a doctor says, okay, let's use the AI to help me make a diagnosis. They put in a few parameters, and then the software spits out one sentence, and doctor says, okay, I get a diagnosis. My point about that one sentence is that it requires many years of experience and expertise to understand what's in that one sentence. The AI doesn't actually understand what that one sentence is. The AI is very good at processing lots of information and giving you a pattern. And it takes someone with deep expertise to understand whether the diagnosis is correct or wrong, even though that human expert may be slower in terms of time. But understanding what the diagnosis really means, implications are, that the AI has yet to be able to replace.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, Kevin. In fact, I also work with some of the physicians or doctors in NUHS. I can tell you for sure the doctors themselves are skeptical of AI, this recommendation. So at their level also, there's some level of skepticism. at least at this stage.
No, but the way I think about AI, I mean, just think, okay, I mean, the other example we use, right? Let's look at banks lah. When the automated teller machine, right? Do you know bank tellers were being automated in the 1960s? And what's one of the most interesting statistics, right? When they're making ATMs, they say die lah, all the tellers will all be made redundant or lose jobs. In fact, a year after the ATMs were introduced in 1967 or 68, the number of jobs for tellers are actually increased. And what's the reason? Because the ATM requires a physical space. It's a machine. And when you have the machine, you have to have a branch. And when you have to have a branch, you have to have a bunch of humans running the branch. And now that the ATM can handle basic things like withdraw money or even save money, at the time it was only withdraw money. So basic transactions, you can save time. But that frees up the humans to do the more sophisticated transactions or banking services that require some interaction, discussion, understanding the needs of the customer. Then suddenly the bank teller becomes important again. In fact, even more important. So I that's why I'm always very careful to say automation is going to loosely replace expertise or replace people. Think of automation as it's a tool, it's a technology. And both experts and rookies can use technology to do things better. And that's how our relationship should be with AI and ML. It is a tool. And once we understand how this tool, we use it well, we can do better. Whether you're an expert or a rookie, it doesn't matter.
So good. I mean, good feedback, guys. So we got the one quite Q&A on the chat. I mean, we got 10 more minutes, so I just want to, if anybody got a questions, feel free Q&A. We will try to put it in there. Let me get a panelist to give some inputs on that. But I think I'll just kind of like, put it out there for everybody. I thought it was a very interesting question. SBF released a report about sustainable employment, which seems that discuss a risk of a divide, right? You got very knowledgeable workers, MNC taking up all the talents, where SMEs become stepping stones and difficult to scale. And for so it becomes that SMEs can't seem to be able to grow any bigger, right? That's the challenge, because other MNC, the government taking out all the talents. And then you got, on the employee side, you got this divide as well, which by the low wage workers will stay low wage, whereas the high flyers will keep making more and more money. I mean, this is a tough one. I don't know, maybe we get just around the table. What do you take on these? Maybe the start from Sean. What can companies do? Or anybody want to take this question?
Sean, you're mute. Sean, you're mute. Sean, you're mute.
Chicken and egg question. Don't know how to answer, but I think the government is trying to help. They're not trying to take away people from the SMEs or the MNCs. That's my belief. I mean, I spent 15 years in China. I came back to Singapore 2 years ago, and I'm actually very impressed with what the government is doing to help the people. So on the question the question says, MNCs and government is taking the talents while SMB become the training ground. I look at myself, being the SME myself, I don't agree with that statement. I felt that if I'm an SME, I will want to pay more than the MNC and the government to take the talents away from them. It's your business. You control your business. If you cannot pay your guys, you got to think of another way to pay better, to take away talents from the government. So that's on the SME bosses to challenge themselves.
That's a good one. Kevin, or any take on this?
Yeah, so I'm going to say, yes, I understand this is a challenge, and it's certainly a real one. But I have two comments. One, people oftentimes forget that this very successful MNCs like Facebook, Google, all this were startups, which means they were SMEs at one point. And at the early days, they were not paying well either. And people who joined these companies joined them because there was something meaningful, there was a vision, and they continue to work because they grew with the company. And I think that's related to what some of the SMEs are facing. And it's related to what I said earlier, things like job redesign. I think there's a tendency, especially when you're a small company, when someone's really good at something, they tend to end up keep doing the same thing. I'm speculating here, but my guess is that's what's happening. And if you can give your talented people more responsibility, listen to them to help grow the company, and maybe grow the company faster than you might be comfortable with. There's an element of risk taking when it comes to scaling, right? But people have to remember that when it scales, you need a bigger organization, you need more talent, you need more people. But that also means that the decision making has to be more distributed. You have to move faster. It also means you have to undo the way you used to do things. I think that's the key. When you scale, the way you organize, the way you do this, make decisions, the way the company does business has to change, has to evolve. And as the company is evolving and growing, the talented people can see growth, not only in their own skills and development, but also, like Sean said, the salaries. I think you stand a pretty good chance. I don't think talented people always want the higher, necessarily driven only by the highest possible pay that they can get. There's a balance and meaningfulness and balance of, whatever is meaningful to them at the individual level. If you understand that, and you can build and redesigning those, giving them more responsibility, trusting them, letting them drive the growth of the company, you'll be surprised what you may see.
Kim Yong, any take on this?
Yeah, so I completely agree with, I think, Kevin, like what you said in terms of providing meaningful jobs to the employees, even within SMEs. All right. I think the fact of the things when I talk to some of our undergraduates or even some prospective students, why they want to kind of do a computing education. I mean, it may sound kind of far-reaching or whatever you call it. I mean, they will say that they want to do something meaningful to change the world. All right. Of course, at their age, it could be anything that changes the world. I mean, this was probably what Mark Zuckerberg had in mind, all right, to kind of set up Facebook to enable kind of one-to-one communications for anyone in the world. Also, I think money is not always the ends to everything. I think some of our graduates, they are more than willing to do their own startups, all right, and fight for tooth and nail and whatever to just ensure that the startup can survive, as long as they see possibility of using or applying technologies to change the world for the better, or even, of course, for mundane commercial reasons to kind of sell off the company to some big MNC in some days. At the everyday level, of course, some of the SMEs, of course, I understand your pressures. Most of the time it's just firefighting on a daily basis. But that said, I suppose it would be good to kind of give some responsibilities or possibility for the employees to kind of work on some kind of outside your main job role kind of innovations to try things out. And of course, at the SME level, at the higher level, be willing to kind of listen to your employees, all right, to kind of think of possibilities to innovate out of the box. All right. The fact is, I think a lot of these technological solutions are componentized. It's not too difficult actually to build things, not really so from ground up anymore. All right. And also, I think last week also I heard the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce, there was this story or news article saying that SCCC basically have kind of set up a room for all the local SMEs companies to kind of use their live streaming facilities like a studio, right, to sell things to China, to the Chinese market. So this is just one example where kind of SMEs can pull together resources rather than kind of taking things at their own company SME levels. We need the SME associations to pull together resources to kind of better use the scale and scope, of resources they have on hand to kind of help each other, and of course ultimately to retain the talents.
I mean, good input. I mean, I'm running an kind of startup as well, So for us, I think that the retention of employees is always a challenge, right? It will always be, us versus the MNC. But I think where a lot of SMEs can come in is to have this image to employees, whereby in an MNC, in a government organization, you are the cog of a wheel, right? You're one of 1,000 people in the company. Whereas in an SME, you're probably one in the 10% of the organization. You have a much more significant impact to a small organization than one of 1,000. So my take to all of is that would you want to be in an SME where at this stage when you're learning a lot, which allows you to learn a lot being a small organization, or would you want to be a very focused specialist in a huge organization where you only can do maybe 0.1% of the work, right? So a lot of times, this is how personally as me, in our organization, we're able to attract good guys, maybe not the best, but good enough that we can grow them, and we can kind of let them evolve with the organization. But the main point here, yeah, you're right, it starts from the top, right? Employers have to think about how to give the lower tier more employees more stake in how the business should be run, and listen to them. I think nowadays we're dealing with a smarter, more connected workforce than our forefathers. So we probably have to change the way we work as well. So we're pretty short on time, but I just want to kind of go around the table, get everybody to share the panelists to share some takeaways that you would like our audience to go with today from today's discussion. What your input is. Maybe I'll start with Sean. Some audience or advice you want to give our audience today.
For the last 6 months, ending end of Feb, I've been hiring a lot in my own company, taking advantage of the JGI grants that the government is providing. If you're an SME and you are growing, take advantage of what the grant is. The government latest budget have extended the JGI for another 7 months, I think. So this is a perfect time for you to lock in your investment, because they're going to pay you guys 25 to 50% of their salary for the next 12 months. So take advantage of this window of free grants from government. We pay a lot of taxes through COE, through everything. But my advice to all the SME owners here is to take advantage of these JGI grants.
Awesome, thank you. Maybe Kevin, any takeaways for today for the audience?
Now that I listened to everyone's ideas, it just occurred to me that maybe the problem with talent retention is we're too focused on the individual. Meaning that we're trying to focus on retaining this one person or that one person case by case. Maybe perhaps SMEs should start thinking about how is your company as a whole, as an organization, organized. So that, it's like football. You can have one Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, but if the rest of your team is rubbish, you can forget it, man. Just look at Barcelona today. You can Lionel Messi when it's fantastic because his team was fantastic. Now that the rest of the team is falling apart, he also cannot. So when we talk about talent retention, it's about the team, it's about the organization. Think through the entire organization. And when you have a really good organization, frankly speaking, in that day when Lionel Messi is injured, somebody else comes in and the team still can function and still do very, very well. And perhaps that should be the strategy when it comes to talent retention, and not worry too much about the individual stuff.
That's a good point. I think this is a perfect opportunity, right? Based on Sean's input about, great time to hire a bunch of people, use this opportunity to build your team, reorganize. It's a great opportunity for SMEs to do that. I think the combination of these things, very good. Kim Yong, any take from you?
Yeah, so I will just keep it short and perhaps just kind of conclude that I think in today's business environment, it's always challenging. There will always be kind of a lot of disruptions that will come along. And after this COVID period, there will be a lot of structural changes. So in terms of the disruptive tech skills, I think we have taught a lot of things: AI, machine learning, fintech, I don't know, quantum computing, proactive security are some of those things. I think that you will see increasingly a lot more emphasis. So I guess in short, just everybody probably would have to keep their minds open and keep learning. All right, and that's the only way to kind of survive and adapt. Keep the minds open, and of course, kind of invest in your own talents going ahead. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. So I think I just want to kind of sum it up a little bit. I think just try and get everyone's input. What I thought was awesome. I mean, the last few crises, from financial crisis to the last Asian financial crisis, and every time there's a crisis, what follows them is usually a very accelerated boom. I mean, in my old 20 years of working experience, that's what I've seen. Every time there's a crash, next thing you know, it's a huge boom. It's a very fast boom. So with this COVID coming, I would say maybe halfway, almost there, ending, right? I think what we should all be anticipating is that when this ends, and it will end, is that there's going to be a very rapid growth in the market, because right now the global economy for the first time ever has sunk together and will grow. And when you compound together the growth will be much, much faster than probably anyone has seen before. So when you have this growth, if you're not going to hire people or retain people or try to do things during the growth period, you probably won't have time, because the market is moving way faster than you can organize yourselves. So I'll urge everyone in the audience maybe to relook at this opportunity. Government's a lot of grants, the budget has been awesome. Digitizing your business has been awesome. Use this opportunity, digitize and ready yourself, and build a team that's nimble and agile enough to help your organization capture the growth path, right? I mean, if you got a nimble team, regardless of how the economy is going to restructure themselves in the future, you're ready, because your team is super talented, super nimble, and you have this time to build a team, talent base with all the grants and digitize your business. I think you will prepare yourself for your business for a tremendous opportunity in the upcoming 12 to 18 months. So I hope today's session was useful. I mean, our speakers have been very kind of them to share all their insights and inputs, and I appreciate everyone's attention with us for the last 1 hour, and I hope to see you again in our future webinars. With this, I thank you, everybody. I think there was Ivan, is there a poll or a survey form for everybody?
Yeah, please fill up the feedback form after leaving the webinar in order to receive the slides for today. Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Please feel free to give us your feedback. And in the future, if we need to, we can organize such a webinar again to share more insights from the industry. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.